Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered why milk, one of nature's most complete foods, is also one of the easiest foods to spoil and contaminate? Today we are going to explore the complete science behind milk hygiene, processing, and quality assurance, taking a journey from the farm all the way to the flask. Milk is often called a vulnerable superfood. Its high water content of around 87%, along with its balanced pH and its rich profile of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, make it an ideal medium for bacterial growth. On one hand, milk gives us water, amino acids, calcium, and vitamins, making it a nutritional asset. On the other hand, this very same composition creates a vulnerability, allowing bacteria to multiply rapidly and spread if not controlled properly. Ensuring safety requires three pillars working together: recognizing epidemiological threats, practicing preventive hygiene, and applying thermal intervention through processing. This brings us to the pasteurization imperative. Pasteurization serves two major purposes. The first is public health, where the goal is to destroy 100% of vegetative pathogenic bacteria. Historically, the benchmark pathogen was Mycobacterium tuberculosis, but modern pasteurization standards are calibrated against the highly heat resistant organism called Coxiella burnetii, which causes Q fever. The second purpose is commercial viability, which means reducing live spoilage bacteria such as psychrotrophs and lactic acid bacteria and inactivating natural enzymes in milk to prevent flavor degradation and to extend shelf life significantly. Let us understand what milk hygiene really means. Milk hygiene refers to the rigorous safeguarding of milk right from the moment of secretion in the animal all the way through to consumption, ensuring the final product is free from pathogenic organisms and excessive spoilage bacteria. The two main objectives of pasteurization are public health protection by destroying harmful bacteria and preservation by reducing spoilage bacteria to prolong shelf life. An important quality indicator here is the somatic cell count. A healthy immune response in the udder typically shows a cell count below 50,000 cells per milliliter, which falls in the green zone. However, when the somatic cell count crosses 200,000 cells per milliliter, entering the red zone, it indicates mastitis or udder inflammation. High somatic cell counts trigger enzymatic degradation of proteins and fats, leading to off flavors during storage. Now let us look at the vectors of vulnerability, the three major sources through which milk can become contaminated. The first vector is the dairy animal itself, where risks include mastitis infections, systemic diseases, fecal matter, and dirt on the udder surface. The second vector is human handlers, who can introduce fecal oral transmission through enteric fevers, respiratory droplets causing sore throats, infected skin lesions, and unwashed hands. The third vector is the environment and utensils, including polluted farm water, flies and insects, dust from manure, and unsterilized milking equipment. Where all these three vectors overlap, we get what is called the raw milk vulnerability zone, the highest risk area for contamination. Understanding milk-borne diseases requires looking at two categories of pathogen taxonomy. The first category includes infections that are primary to animals but transmissible to humans. This includes Mycobacterium bovis causing tuberculosis, Brucella abortus and melitensis causing brucellosis, Coxiella burnetii causing Q fever, Streptococcus pyogenes causing septic sore throat, Staphylococcus aureus causing enterotoxin food poisoning, and Salmonella species causing enteric fevers. The second category includes infections that are primary to humans but transmitted through milk. This includes typhoid and paratyphoid fevers, shigellosis or dysenteries, cholera caused by Vibrio cholerae, enteropathogenic E. coli, streptococcal infections and diphtheria, and viral hepatitis A along with polioviruses. To prevent these risks, hygienic blueprint must be followed at the farm level. Cowshed construction requires a minimum of 6 square meters of floor area per animal. Concrete impervious flooring, good drainage that is higher than the surrounding ground, and proper cross ventilation. Cattle care and udder health involve monthly veterinary inspections, routine udder washing using 300 parts per million hypochlorite solution, drying with individual paper towels to prevent waterborne contamination, and isolating any animals with mastitis. Utensil and water sanitation require water to be chlorinated to 50 parts per million, and utensils must undergo a hot detergent wash followed by hot water treatment at 85 degrees Celsius or higher, or chemical disinfection. Dung and sludge disposal should use concrete channels, with semi-solid dung removed daily to a depot located at least 200 meters away from the sheds, along with strict anti-fly measures. Finally, handler hygiene demands mandatory medical screening, thorough scrubbing with hot water, soap, and a nail brush before milking, along with clean uniforms and masks. Equipment sanitation follows what is known as the Clean in Place protocol, consisting of 4 steps. Step 1 is a cold or tepid pre-rinse at 43 to 46 degrees Celsius, which flushes out gross milk residues and liquefies fats without denaturing proteins onto the surfaces. Step 2 is a hot detergent wash using alkalis like sodium carbonate and polyphosphates to saponify fats and dissolve milk proteins. Step 3 is a hot water rinse, which flushes away the detergent and any suspended soil. Step 4 is chemical or thermal sterilization using hot water at 85 degrees Celsius or higher, or chemical agents like sodium hypochlorite at 50 to 300 parts per million to destroy any residual bacteria. At the front line, platform inspection acts as a diagnostic triage tool. If milk appears ropey or slimy, it indicates contamination with lactis vascosus or udder disease, and such milk is rejected. Blue milk indicates infection with Mycobacterium tuberculosis or Pseudomonas cyanogena and is also rejected. Red milk suggests a crushed udder or presence of blood, leading to rejection. Highly colored milk, however, may simply indicate the presence of colostrum and can be accepted. Dirty milk points to manure dust or utensil dirt and is rejected. On the taste and smell front, an altered taste from feed sources like turnips is acceptable, but a medicinal taste suggests the animal was administered drugs or antibiotics, and souring indicates lactic acid bacterial fermentation, both of which lead to rejection. Now let us walk through the 8-step pasteurization pipeline. Step 1 is chilling, which arrests bacterial growth by cooling milk to 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. Step 2 is preheating or regeneration, which recycles heat from already pasteurized milk to improve efficiency. Step 3 is clarification, using centrifugal force to remove cells and debris. Step 4 is standardization, where the butterfat content is adjusted to the desired level. Step 5 is homogenization, applying 100 to 170 bars of pressure to split fat globules for a uniform texture. Step 6 is heating, where milk reaches its target safety temperature. Step 7 is holding, maintaining that temperature for a precisely calibrated time. Step 8 is cooling and aseptic packaging, where milk is rapidly cooled to 4 degrees Celsius to prevent the growth of heat-resistant bacteria that survived processing. Different thermal processing regimes are used depending on the desired outcome. Thermization uses 57 to 68 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes, or a shorter burst of 5 to 30 seconds, targeting psychotrophic spoilage bacteria. Batch or low temperature long time processing uses 63 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, targeting pathogens. Flash or high temperature short time processing uses 72 to 74 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 seconds, targeting Coxiella burnetii and other vegetative pathogens. Extended shelf life processing uses 125 to 140 degrees Celsius for 1 to 10 seconds, targeting mesophilic and psychotrophic bacteria. Ultra high temperature processing, either direct or indirect, uses 130 to 150 degrees Celsius for 2 to 20 seconds, targeting bacterial endospores including Clostridium botulinum. Innovative steam injection technology goes even further, using 160 to 180 degrees Celsius for just zero point 0.1 seconds, targeting extremely heat resistant spores. And in bottle or canned sterilization uses 110 to 121 degrees Celsius for 10 to 20 minutes, targeting all vegetative bacteria through wet heat treatment. Beyond traditional heat based methods, several non thermal innovations are gaining ground. High pressure processing applies 100 to 1000 megapascals in batch mode, working through membrane destruction and alteration of enzymes and nucleic acids, retaining up to 90% of vitamins B2 and C. Power ultrasonics uses sound waves above 20 kHz, creating acoustic cavitation through the violent implosion of microbubbles, which preserves heat sensitive nutrients, although it usually needs to be combined with heat. Pulsed electric field technology uses high voltage electrical pulses, with the benefit of having negligible effect on protein structures or sensory qualities, though it has minimal effect on deactivating spores. Microfiltration uses porous filters ranging from zero point 0.1 to 1.4 microns, physically separating particles, and retains the natural sensory properties of milk without protein denaturation, although it can suffer from persistent membrane fouling by fats and proteins. Let us also look at the biochemical and physical effects of heat at the micro level. When milk is heated above 60 degrees Celsius, a whey protein called beta lactoglobulin unfolds, exposing hydrophobic regions and sulfhydryl groups. These bond with kappa casein micelles, forming aggregates that increase the viscosity of milk. Heat also affects enzymes, reducing beneficial antimicrobial enzymes like lactoperoxidase and lysozyme, while activating an enzyme called plasmin, which can contribute to age-related gelation during storage. Additionally, heat disrupts the milk fat globule membrane, affecting the phospholipids and glycoproteins at its interface, which reduces lipid protection against oxidation and alters fat digestibility. At the macro level, there are nutritional and sensory effects to consider. On the loss side, there is a minor loss of 1 to 4% of the amino acid lysine due to the Maillard reaction with lactose, along with tryptophan degradation. There are moderate losses of B complex vitamins including B1, B2, and folate, along with a 10 to 20% loss of vitamin C. On the sensory side, the release of volatile sulfur compounds like hydrogen sulfide and methional can create cooked or sulfurous notes, especially in ultra pasteurized products. On the positive side, minerals like calcium and phosphorus remain highly stable, with bioavailability completely unaffected. Fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A remain stable and sometimes even show a slight increase after processing. Core macronutrients like fat and protein remain robust and highly digestible. It is also important to clarify a common misconception. There is no scientific evidence supporting the claim that raw milk cures lactose intolerance by providing natural lactase, and pasteurization does not alter outcomes related to lactose intolerance. Now, let us step into the quality assurance laboratory to understand the alkaline phosphatase test. Alkaline phosphatase is a naturally occurring enzyme in mammalian milk, and its thermal tolerance is marginally higher than the most heat resistant non spore forming pathogen in milk, which is Coxiella burnetii. The mechanism involves adding a chemical reagent called disodium phenyl phosphate to the milk. If alkaline phosphatase is present, meaning it survived the heating process. It splits the phenol, producing a blue color. The diagnosis is straightforward. The absence of alkaline phosphatase definitively proves that pasteurization was adequate, while a positive result showing blue color above 2.3 Lobby bond units indicates inadequate heating or contamination after processing. There are also other laboratory verification dashboards used to ensure milk quality. The standard plate count involves direct bacteriological culture of pasteurized milk to determine the total viable microbial load, and the threshold requires this count to not exceed 30,000 bacteria per milliliter. The coliform count assays for specific gram-negative psychotrophic bacteria, and because pasteurization destroys coliforms entirely, their presence strictly indicates contamination after pasteurization. The threshold here is absolute absence in 1 milliliter of milk. The methylene blue reduction test is an indirect test of microbial load, where a dye is added and incubated at 37 degrees Celsius, and bacterial enzymes consume oxygen and decolorize the dye. The threshold requires that milk should not decolorize within 5.5 hours, since faster reduction indicates heavier contamination. So, to summarize, all of this comes together in what we can call the equation of safety. The first component is raw milk hygiene, involving stringent farm sanitation and healthy cattle with somatic cell counts below 50,000, preventing excessive spoilage bacteria, heat stable staphylococcal enterotoxins, and heat resistant spores from entering the processing pipeline. The second component is optimal thermal processing, where calibrated high temperature short time and ultra high temperature regimes execute targeted destruction of vegetative pathogens and dangerous organisms like Mycobacterium bovis and Coxiella burnetii, while balancing nutritional retention. The third component is laboratory verification, involving rigorous alkaline phosphatase testing, coliform limits, and aseptic packaging, which together confirm process efficacy and prevent recontamination by psychotrophic bacteria, ensuring a safe shelf life. When these three components multiply together, they give us the safety standard. The key insight to remember is that pasteurization is a hurdle, not a cure all. Poor quality raw milk cannot be processed into premium pasteurized milk. Safety is an unbroken continuum that starts right from the health of the herd and extends all the way to the integrity of the final flask. So, to summarize, milk hygiene is truly an exact science, one that combines hazard mitigation at the farm level, thermal precision during processing, and continuous laboratory verification, all working together to protect public health while maintaining dairy excellence. Hope you have understood about the topic from farm to flask, the comprehensive science of milk hygiene, processing, and quality assurance. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.